Alright, hey guys, and welcome back, as I'm back with another Masters of the Universe Origins review from the Wave 1 line of figures, and this week I'm going to be taking a look at Beastman. So as you can see, like always, we have the Masters of the Universe Origins carded example, the loose figure, and the vintage, so without any further ado, let's get into it and check out this furry fool. Alright, so here we have the carded example of the MOTU Origins Wave 1 Beastman. And as you can see, it looks just like all the other carded examples with a great blue background, the New for 20 logo. Beastman Savage Henchman is the title underneath of his name. You have the modern posing retro play starburst up here in the corner. And then, of course, we have a nice, brightly orange-colored Beastman in the bubble on the blister card, which looks fantastic. You have the red bursting rocks in the background, the Mattel logo on the bottom. So for people who are new to this series or don't know much about the MOTU Origins line, I have to say, even though they're a little different, the cards really look very true to what you would have seen back in the 80s. So now let's flip this around and check out the back. And just like on all of the other cards here, you have some more great cover art. You have Beastman attacking with all of these different lions and reptiles and even a pterodactyl up at the front, of course, because his power is to be able to control animals. And it says up here, the ferocious Beastman uses mind control to force animals to do Skeletor's evil bidding. Ha ha. But as we all know, Beastman doesn't get any respect at all. We have the includes comic book Starburst right there, which with each one of the Wave 1 figures, you get the Beast Barrage comic book. And then we have over here in the corner, where it would have shown the figure's action feature, we have the Fit Whip into hand little window box there, and as always showing you can twist into powerful battle positions. And as always, this is the 6-back card where you have He-Man and Skeletor, your two basic figures, which are going to be on every single card back. And then we have Teela and Man-at-Arms, and Evil Lyn and Beastman. So again, a great looking card, fantastic art. If you're ever looking at any of these card backs, they usually have Easter eggs to new figures that are coming out. I was looking at an older one the other day. I don't remember which one it was. It may have been Skeletor or Man-at-Arms. But there was actually a shadow of a land shark in the back that I totally didn't notice. I think it actually was with Man-at-Arms. If you go back and look at that, they dropped a hint for that, and nobody caught that. I'm really surprised. But like I said, I love the artwork on these cards, front and back. They look absolutely fantastic. So now let's put this off to the side and let's take a look at the loose figure. Alright, so here we have the loose MOTU Origins Wave 1 Beastman outside of the card. He does come with a few accessories, some that I've already put on the figure. He comes with his trademark armor, of course, the centerpiece with the blue, I can't remember what that was, but it was a medallion that he got and added to his armor in one of the episodes. If anybody can remember that, feel free to comment down below. His trademark shoulder guards with the spikes, and then of course his whip, which really looks good. I have to say I don't like the string, as I'll show in a comparison with the vintage. I think that was a little cheap and phoned in, but other than that, the whip looks pretty good. And then, like I said before, he comes with the Beast Barrage little mini comic, just like all of the other figures in the Wave 1 series. So, just like with any of the other MOTU Origins figures, he has the same points of articulation as to where the head is on a pivot. You have the arms, which can move up and down, side to side. You can pivot here at the elbows. They also turn all the way around. And you can also turn the hands around, and of course all of the pieces are totally customizable. I don't like doing that because I think it puts wear and tear on the joints. That's why I'm not displaying that, but you can just give a little tug on either the arms, the head, the wrist, and they will pop out of socket. He does pivot at the waist, of course, no power punch, just like with any of the other figures. The legs move forward and back and side to side. Knees have a little bit of motion there as well, as they also spin 360 degrees. He also has pivoting, swiveling joints at the calves and then at the ankles. So a lot of great areas of articulation with this figure. I will say his feet, and actually with quite a few of these figures, the feet can be difficult to really get into position to where they seem to want to slip sometimes. Sometimes this figure's okay, but sometimes they do kind of pop out of place. So now let's take a little more detailed look at Beastman. I think this is a really well done figure, I'll have to say first off. The main thing that jumps out on this figure right off the bat is the coloration on the face, the detail work on the paint, and I know there's been a lot of complaints about this line hasn't really seen a lot of good paint and detail work, and that's very true on some figures to where it's a little sloppy, you know, it's not necessarily the neatest, but on the face they really knocked it out of the park with that. I think that looks great. The color, even though it's different from the original vintage, I think it looks really nice. It's a really eye-catching, bright, popping orange. And whenever I think of Beastman, I always think of him as a brighter orange. You have like the Mega Construx Beastman, which is more of a burnt orange. And then you have the Battle Pack versus He-Man, where he looks more like this, not as bright, but the more typical brighter orange that we all know. I will say there's a big missed point on the color of the armor, which I'll do a side-by-side comparison with that in a little bit. I think that color is way off. That really doesn't look anything at all like what it should look like. I mean, I guess it kind of does at a glance, but when you really set it up next to any other Beastman that you see with the armor, it does not look right. Calling out the paintwork, I hadn't noticed this before, but you see this in a lot of the figures. There's actually a little bit of blue runoff on the belt. You almost can't notice it when you just set it up there, but like right here, right in that bottom part of the belt, there's a little bit of blue runoff, and I noticed that with quite a few of the figures, and that's a disappointment. I mean, a little bit of rubbing alcohol or like nail polish remover, that should get that off nice and clean to where you won't notice it, but you shouldn't have to do that in the first place. With the armor, now it's just like any of the other figures to where it's going to clip on in the back, so it's kind of the same exact style as the vintage, and then that's just going to clip around the back and go over the head. So I already attached my armor just for the sake of saving a little bit of time there. I do think the loincloth and the rest of his armor, even if the paint is a little bit sloppy, I think that it's a good color. I think it looks really nice. And I think overall he's molded very well with like the fur on his arms and everything, which basically Beastman is just Stratos with a head swap, if any of you guys are ever wondering. And yeah, I overall think that he looks good. So now let's give him his whip. And they do say, like, in the little thing, like, hey, put it in, you know, they show it in this hand with the little locking pivot. But usually with my Beastman figures, as he was one of my favorites growing up, I usually leave that open for like a sword, because it just kind of doesn't look right the way the way it looks silly. It looks like he's holding a horn. Like, it looks like he's gonna like speak into a megaphone. Like, the whip has always looked bizarre, and it just looks even more bizarre there. So it's all a matter of preference. But what I actually do is I put the whip over his hand like this. Just got to squeeze the fingers together a little bit and it'll go on nice and easily. And it just looks a little bit more natural for him to be holding it in this arm, I think. Like the way that his hand grabs it, it just looks a lot better. One thing I'll say with the whip is that it really doesn't hold its shape like how the vintage one did. So it's hard to really get him in cool poses. Where he's holding the whip, you know, like if you want to do like an action pose where he's like attacking, like, well, that just goes limp. There's no pose there, you know, unless he's gonna wear it on his head or something. So I do think they could have used a better material when they made the cord for the whip. I think that's a little cheap. One thing I like with these is, well, too, is that you can always put them in the stout-legged position. then that makes him about the same height and have the same stance as the vintage Beastman. And when you put him like that, it's like that really pops as like he looks like a vintage figure, in all honesty. So really cool. So overall, I give this figure 2 big thumbs up just on its own, by its own merits. You know, standing on its own with a MOTU Origins Wave 1 line. But now let's take a look at a side-by-side comparison with the newer Beastman and the vintage. Alright guys, so it's comparison time. So now let's check out the newer MOTU Wave 1 Beastman and the original 1982 vintage Beastman. As I said, they do look very similar. Of course, this one is a little bit more of a thinner frame. The newer Origins one looks more bulkier, looks like beefier. The colors are really not that different as far as the body. This one is darker, but next to each other, they really don't look that bad. The face sculpt is really good. This guy's kind of been through the ringer. He's old, so his paint isn't as good as it could be. The only real difference is that his mouth is open here, and in the newer one, his mouth is not open, but I still think that this paint work here looks really good. That's a nice rendition of what the original one looked like. The armor, I don't know how well the camera will pick it up, but it's just not the right shade of red. This is much more of a red, and this is kind of like a maroon or almost like a brownish red, and it just doesn't look right to the eye. This really complements his bright orange color much better. So when you're going with a bright orange, you shouldn't tone it down with a dark red. That doesn't make any sense color-wise. Around the back here, same type of almost identical armor, the way that it attaches up at the top and the back, and then back around to the front again. Let's see if these fellows want to stay standing here. There we are. The colors are a little more muted on the original with the center chest piece. That blue is a little bit less bright. And then the loincloth is a darker blue and like a darker, I want to say gold, more like a bronze color. The Origins one does stand maybe about 1/8 of an inch higher. I probably could just bring his legs down a little bit more, I suppose. But I think overall these figures tend to stand a little bit higher just in general. But give or take, they're about the same height. And this is what I meant with the whip. And I see I have the same thing here. I have him holding it in that same hand, just because I like to put, like, with the weapons pack, give him like the blue axe or a sword, give him like an offhand weapon. But like this string is very tight, and it really holds its position well. Like, I really think it just does a better job of looking more like a whip. Like, look at that. Looks like he's ready to attack, you know, like that. With this new Beastman, you can't really do that, and that's a big disappointment when, you know, the whole thing is like, oh, well, action posing, and it's like, well, where's the action if his whip just kind of, you know, slumps to the ground? Like, with this guy, just the way that it curls, that looks so much better. So that's my big complaint with this figure here. But overall, I think Beastman is a nice addition to the Wave 1 MOTU Origins line. Well, alright guys, that is going to do it for this review of the Wave 1 Masters of the Universe Origins Beastman figure. I highly recommend picking this up if you see it. A lot of the Wave 1s are very accessible in stores like Walmart and Target, so it shouldn't be a problem picking this figure up. I think it looks great. I think it's a fantastic addition to the new MOTU Origins Wave, and if you see it, definitely pick it up. So anyway, guys, that will do it for this review of the MOTU Origins Wave 1 Beastman, and I'll see you back here next time for another MOTU Origins review. Take care. Hey guys, if you liked the video that you just watched, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, and you can follow me at Facebook at King of Retro or Twitter at #8ByteBrian. See you next time.